Are treating you?
You see the glaze, gets you mad. That's good.
You're not now becoming an expert on admiralty law, trust in estates, right?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, council, members of the audience. Before we get into our official council session this evening, we're going to conduct a public hearing regarding ordinance 2024-18, which is an ordinance that council's been considering regarding electronic changeable copy signs in the U4 retail districts. And so with that said, the public meeting is open. And I will entertain anyone here from the public who wishes to speak regarding this pending ordinance. Is there anyone here who wants to speak about that? Front row, let's start.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's nice to see you in a different capacity. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity to let me share my views with you. I'm Angela Arnold, and I'm the co-owner of Play Matters Toys, located in Landerwood Plaza at 30789 Pine Tree Road. This is my favorite employee and co-owner, Sean Arnold. We took over the business 3 years ago in 2021, and we're here to urge you to reject the ordinance 2024-18. Here's why. First, I don't believe the problem has been properly defined. According to the posted minutes from the June 3rd Zoning Commission meeting, quote, "The biggest concern was the changeable copy signs would distract drivers." Mr. Byron, law director, said the problem with these issues is the relationship of the land use activity and the First Amendment. Signs are unique that way, unquote. Setting aside the First Amendment considerations, which are sizable, I understand the primary objection was that changeable signage would be a distraction. I asked the city, was DOT or a traffic engineer consulted, and if so, where is that report? Have there been documented incidents related to this specific sign on the circle? Has the luminosity of other light emitting structures on the circle been measured by a traffic engineer? Why this sign when there are many other bright signs and objects? Was there a vetting process or a cost benefit analysis done? If there is a safety concern, it should be well documented with facts, not just opinions, anecdotes, or gut feel. Second, I represent this is going to have a negative financial impact on our business and potentially on the other businesses in the Landerwood Plaza. We do not have street frontage. This sign is our front window, and it's a benefit provided by our landlord. For example, on February 23rd, we requested our landlord put our image in rotation to promote the availability of our solar eclipse glasses, selling for $2.99. We sold 588 units after that sign went up, and many of those shoppers were first-time customers who didn't even know our shop was there. It was an extremely successful campaign that cost our business $0 in advertising fees. The requirements of this ordinance are difficult to comply with, and I'm concerned that our landlord will simply remove the sign altogether. So in terms of advertising value, what would that cost Play Matters Toys? Let's say our sign is glanced at 100 times per hour. Each read of that sign is called an impression. At 100 impressions per hour, 12 hours per day, 7 days per week times 4 weeks, that's 33,600 impressions per month. The average cost per 1,000 impressions, also known as CPM, in the Cleveland metro area for a digital billboard is $8.12 per month, according to adcritic.com. This gives the value of our digital signage an approximate value of $272 per month that we would no longer receive. Add to that the lost revenue from new customers who bought those solar glasses or thoughtful gift-wrapped birthday toys, see me for coupons. Advertising costs money because it delivers value. If you reduce the value of this sign or take it away entirely, there will be a quantifiable impact to all of the rent payers in the plaza who no longer benefit from the advertising. In conclusion, I urge you to please vote no on this ordinance in its current form. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. And thank you for Play Matters. You're a valuable member of our community. And my granddaughter's, one of her favorite things from her last visit was the sparkly bouncy ball that you got to play matches.
Always a winner.
Anyone else? Michelle, I see your hand.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Michelle Fair. I am the property manager at Landerwood, and I have been there for over 18 years. I was there with our previous ownership and when Glimcher Group acquired the center. The current changeable copy sign that we currently have in place was an effort that was worked on between this council, planning and zoning, ourselves, and the architectural review board. We came up with that digital copy sign, and we purchased that signage based on the outcomes of working together. To find out that there's an ordinance going in place that would actually reduce what we could place on that sign, it's hard to believe that no one reached out ahead of time saying, hey, we've got some issues. We've only ever had one issue when that sign has gone up over 5 years ago. The mayor called me, coming home one night from the airport. He said, Michelle, oh my gosh, it about blinded me. Yeah, okay, we'll get it taken care of right away. Reduce the intensity so that we didn't have any issues. There were lumens put in place. It was actually measured to make sure that we were meeting that light intensity. We have always worked with this city, with the council, with architectural review board, police and fire, to work together to do what is right for not only our tenants, but our customers and this community. That sign does not only just advertise for our tenants, it advertises to their customers, and we advertise community events. You will see on a regular basis there are community events listed on there. And I work with those who contact me on that to make sure that we abide by those rules that were put in place, which was no more than 6 colors. Originally, we talked about, Play Matters has beautiful, beautiful ads that are put up on Facebook. They go out into other avenues. And we talked about being able to put those ads up. It was discussed with this council and with Architectural Review Board and Planning and Zoning that no, that's not what we want. We want something that is simple, that will not be a distraction to the drivers on the circle, and that can quickly get that message through. We've never had any videos play. And in fact, we forego allowing the emergency, any emergency messages to come across, which we could with this sign. We could have emergency messages come across or warnings from the state. And we chose not to do that because we could not control how those messages were coming across. So we would ask, one, that you do not change the ordinance and you allow us to continue with the signage as it is in place. I would also, we have a couple tenants that couldn't make it, and I would also like to read a message from one of those. It's from Canoes. The owners are John and Sherry Bryan. Sherry has been, her family owned the store before they took over. And he says, Sherry and I have owned Canoes since 1987. It was established here in Pepper Pike in 1960. It seems to me that Pepper Pike is trying to make things as difficult as possible on their small businesses. We depend on foot traffic and the sign as it exists, and the sign as it exists helps enormously. The changes to the sign will render it much less effective. Today's business environment is very challenging to brick and mortar retailers. Council should do everything it can to help Pepper Pike small businesses. I see no justification for this unnecessary and harmful change to our center. And if anybody does have any issues or has had issues, I would ask you to reach out. I'm very reachable by phone, by email. I think almost everybody here has been able to get a hold of me, and I answer my phone after hours as well, as the mayor and Joe and Chief Dietz and Chief Frazier will tell you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on this? Yes, Bart. Please say your name.
Savage, 29600 Shaker Boulevard. I've talked to Michelle a couple times, and I've talked to the rabbi on Lander Road in, I think it's Lyndhurst, and they have electronic sign in a residential area. And the rabbi said, we haven't had any problem with our residents, with our signage. And if you want to try to take a look at that, I would suggest you go over Lander, over the freeway, you'll see the electronic sign. It's a very effective sign, and the rabbi said it's very effective for their temple, and it's not offensive to the residents. And I agree with Michelle that I look at the sign all the time. It's never been offensive to me. And I can't see how anyone would be offended by the sign over at Landwood Plaza. We're in a time where we're in an electronic age. Everything now is electronic. Some of you people have the new EVs, right? It's all electronic. A lot of vehicles have electronic. So I think we need to accept some of that and approve some of that in a rightfully way. Not offensive, not really bright. And I was never blinded by the light, as someone mentioned. I looked at it the other day, and matter of fact, ever since that comment was made that they were blinded, Bear and I have a habit of looking at that sign, and we agree that that sign should stay. And, I agree with Michelle and the young lady here that that should not be tampered with. That's all I have to say about the sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Michelle, I have one question for you.
Yes.
You said you had, was there only the Knuth comment that you
There
were
was,
sharing?
Europa mirrored what that was there in most of our other tenants. They use it to advertise, they use it to find employees. I have probably about 10 of our tenants that have put hiring signs up. They've almost immediately got them filled from somebody just passing by that never would have seen it. To be honest with you, that's how I found my assistant. We advertised, we put it out onto different forums. We did not get any qualified candidates. Just happens that I put it up on the board to see if we could get something for somebody from the surrounding community. And within 24 to 48 hours, I actually was able to find somebody that was qualified enough to, to sit and help out in our office.
Okay.
I think Play Matters has used it, Jay McLaughlin has used it. It does a lot for the center, and it's better than if you recall, the old changeable copy sign that we had. It wasn't electronic, but it was still a changeable copy sign. And it was huge. We're probably half to a third of that sign size, what it used to be. And the message is clear, can be read faster, and you don't have to try to figure out what was hyphenated out of it to get everything to fit up there. So,
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
you're welcome.
Anyone else? Not seeing anyone else, we will close this public hearing. I appreciate everyone who came out to listen to or participate in the public hearing. Thank you very much. We are now going to call to order our city council work session of July 17th, 2024. Please call the roll.
Mr. Newell?
Here.
Ms. Atruk?
Here.
Ms. Weltman?
Here.
Ms. Godin? Here. Mr. Lemay?
Here.
Mr. Gentili?
Here.
Dr. Wong?
Here.
Good evening, council. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business will be the approval of the council minutes of June 19th and June 26th. First, June 19th, could we have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Just really quickly, I know I didn't have a chance to talk to Sheila, and I honestly didn't want to bother her. But there were a couple of our discussions that just said there was a discussion. I didn't know if we could maybe work on just getting a very brief summary, like our discussion about the city hall. So that's all. That was my only comment. I mean, it's not that they're not accurate. It's just that there's nothing there.
Okay. Thank you. And so that everyone is aware, the minutes are, the actual transcript, of course, is always available
Mhm.
online, published and permanent. So we do have that.
Absolutely,
But,
absolutely.
you know, I think sometimes when the meetings run very long, there's
Mhm.
almost the
Yeah, I don't-
inclination to, it's hard to summarize when it's.
I know,
vast
and I don't want to
application.
put there's enough on various people's plates, so I don't want to add. But,
Okay. I'm sure Sheila will remain cognizant of.
yeah, I mean, I think she always is, but
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
Mayor, when you say transcript, is it a transcript?
No, I mean the recording.
Recording, okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Zatra?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
yes.
Ms. Godick? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
And a motion regarding approval of the minutes of June 26th.
Moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Zatra?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Godick? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Joe, have you heard anything from
I have not.
Don?
Not sure what's going
We seem to have some sort of glitch or miscommunication from our colleagues at MKSK because they are not in this room. Joe, why don't you excuse yourself or Don and call them and see what's going on?
Okay.
Because it's kind of, they confirmed earlier in the week, so it's a little surprising, and I hope they're safe. In the meanwhile, we will pass on to the discussion on the appointment of the Charter Review Commission. Council later this evening will be having an executive session. I'm going to try to summarize it, Council, and you can chime in. Is going to have an executive session in which different applicants will be discussed in executive session for the appointment of their role as a public official. And I think the current plan is to see if things are ready enough for council to have a vote in public session next week regarding these applicants. Of course, no decisions can or will be made in an executive session regarding any applicant, any particular applicant. This is simply to review, where the council people stand regarding their thoughts about any particular candidate in an appropriate executive session format. Council, anything?
I just really hope that we can get the vote done so that we can have a meeting, the initial meeting still in the month of July, maybe the 31st if possible.
So that said, that was to serve to bring the public up to, current as to what is going on with that process. We're going to move on to the committees and department heads. Have we had a committee since we were last together?
Planning.
Planning.
Planning. Melanie?
Oh, I knew it's out. Basically, I think the Planning and Zoning Commission then again addressed the issue, to give advice to council regarding our ordinance having to do with signs. And we got a lot of good feedback, good discussion, hit on a lot of the same things we've talked about. I guess really, I don't want to rehash the same conversations. There wasn't a recommendation yet at this point. There was a lot of discussion, primarily focusing, I would say, on the issue of the color and whether we could limit color. Everything else, I believe, seemed to be where we had landed as a council seemed to be acceptable overall to most members of the commission. And I think Mr. Byron, I don't want to speak on your behalf, thought that basically everything else was appropriate. The color was the one remaining question that we were trying to work out. And we were, I think, hoping to have like a little bit more information to flesh that out. I don't really know where the commission stands on coming up with a recommendation yet. I would hope soon. That's their role. It is a recommendation. I think that summarizes.
Yeah. There was for council members, you should have received, this went out, right?
Yes.
All right. Since
What
at
we
the end of that meeting, because it was a robust and pretty lengthy
It was a very
conversation. I thought it was a good
It was a
conversation.
very interesting
I did.
conversation.
I did.
It was like a policy discussion.
And
It was very interesting.
at the end, I had said, well, we'll try to get all these comments together. And that's what Sheila undertook to do. So this was
Oh, you're
a
saying,
big effort. I just want council to appreciate. This was a big effort for Sheila to spend, the better part of one of her days trying to summarize this thing. And that's been distributed to council. Of course, the actual audio is available online, right? Yes. Okay. So if anyone on council wishes to hear the actual conversation, it's available online, or any member of the public.
and just to, I know there's been a lot tossed out about First Amendment, and I think it was a pretty circumscribed, people like to say that. It was pretty circumscribed, the part of the discussion that even perhaps could include that. So it was pretty limited, just to, if people want to listen to the conversation. It was really, I thought, very interesting.
One thing I do want to say is I appreciated the comments in our public comment session before this meeting. I thought those were, there's always a split, or there's a divergence, it seems to me, between what you can do and what you should do. And I'm not trying to weigh in on where those considerations resolve. But I think that council needs to take, into consideration and evaluation the public comments that we heard today, because there are, in the can do versus should do, I think there's some significant business considerations for the outfits that work up at Landerwood and in that area that have to be thought about as we consider, as council considers what it wants to do with this electronic sign ordinance, which I'm sure it will.
Rick, do you know how are they noticed on it? Is that how they heard about it, or how did it come to pass? That they heard about it? Because I know they heard about it, but they didn't really hear about that it would be likely a non-conforming conditional use and not applicable.
Well, that hasn't been concluded yet, of course.
Well,
And I think that's some of the things that.
I know, I just
need
thought
to be
that was a
fleshed out.
very important piece of information that they might have wanted to know before they just to think about that it might not actually be applicable to their.
It may or may not. Like I
Well,
said, that hasn't been concluded at all by council. That was one of the considerations that was debated back and forth at the planning commission, as to would it apply to a place like Landerwood retail? Would they be grandfathered? Would we simply eliminate electronic signs? If we did, would they be grandfathered in to allow it? I don't think any conclusions were made.
It was
But
always
yes, you should be aware that is, part of the conversation going on.
It was always my understanding, and maybe I assumed too much. Maybe it was my personal thought process that this would be a non-conforming conditional use anyway. So maybe I personally jumped ahead, but anyhow.
Well, that was
That was
my
mine.
question as well. Steve, can you tell us about non-conforming uses? I thought,
The code requires you to permit uses that are established under an existing code. There is case law that allows signs to be eliminated. There's a case out of Lakewood that went to the Ohio Supreme Court. And what Lakewood did was determine that the signs in Lakewood at the time constituted a nuisance, devaluing property. And I don't know if they had the safety concern regarding traffic or whatever, but it's within council's authority to make that determination and say, you have a period of time within which to amortize the value of the sign, after which it's got to go away. And I think they used 7 years in Lakewood. You could, if you were going to go that route, I would recommend you determine what the useful life of an electronic sign is.
But
And
you have to declare it a nuisance. You have to take a step beyond the ordinance, correct?
yes, if you just pass the ordinance as it's drafted, the non-conforming use would exist there. If it were ever damaged by 50% or beyond, they could not replace it without a variance.
So it sounds to me like, barring a natural disaster or some kind of a disaster, that a second ordinance would have to be passed by council for their sign to be, for their use of the sign to be changed in any way.
To be limited and require the eventual removal, yes, there would be, or the existing ordinance could be amended.
Okay, so, I mean, it could be part of this new ordinance. We have to add something to,
But the ordinance that's in front of you now could be amended to have an amortization.
correct,
requirement.
but it
doesn't.
doesn't have.
It doesn't,
It
right.
doesn't have that right now. So as it stands, without a recommendation from planning yet, their sign
It
would
is-
not be affected.
It would become a lawfully non-conforming sign, which entails some restriction on rebuilding, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But the existing use, the other authority that council has is to limit. You have proposed limiting the hours of use of the sign. That is within your authority in terms of safety and aesthetics to do that. They would continue to get use of the sign. But if it's in the ordinance that they're supposed to turn it off. I think 9:30 is the current hour, right, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now,
9:30 is in the existing ordinance?
in the ordinance is drafted.
The new draft.
But the existing ordinance, sign ordinance,
No, the existing proposed new ordinance.
I'm sorry, the ordinance that's in front of council now
okay,
proposes a time limit that does not exist in the current law.
right, okay.
You have within your authority to limit hours of operation separate and apart, because they would still be able to use the sign, just only during
Got it.
hours.
So there could be a change to their use of the sign in that it would have to be turned off at an hour.
Yep.
That would be but that would be the only change that would apply to them?
Well, that's in the draft ordinance now.
In the draft ordinance?
As far as I know, that's the only one that applies to them now.
Okay.
And then say whatever, I don't know what the useful life of a sign is, but say it's 25 years or whatever. So it's been there for 5 years. In 20 years, they want to replace it, they wouldn't be able to?
And in fact, they'd have to take it down
Right, yeah.
out of the ordinance.
Unless they got a variance, or they can't get a variance.
Well, they could get a variance, but the purpose of putting the removal, the amortization in there is, it is currently, the declaration of nuisance says this is causing a problem. Council has it within its authority to declare something to be a nuisance and order the remediation. In the context of a sign, that requires them to be able to develop, to use it for the useful life of it. Alternatively, you could buy out that. You could essentially take the sign's value and pay them for it, compensate them for it. That's authority. I'm not suggesting anybody is proposed that. That's not on the table, but it's a theoretically legal option.
But can the ordinance be adopted regarding other signs that just leaves that sign alone?
Yes.
Which I think was Melody's.
Yeah.
That's what that was my point, and that, I think what Steve was telling us was that that's kind of the baseline.
Yeah, that's when zoning ordinances are enacted, the usual effect of them, let's say you increase a setback. Let's say you go from your current setbacks, you increase it by 15 feet. The existing structures that are at that setback are legally permitted to be there. there are then rules that are applicable to the non-conforming structure that would come into play. And sometimes it creates problems with financing to have a non-conforming structure. I'm not sure in the case of the sign that the financing of the
But I love that example because it's like, we all see old farmhouses that are set in a different way, close to the street or
Right.
high up, and that would not conform, but obviously
they've been there forever.
they've been there forever. I love that example.
All right, so just so I'm clear, that could happen without getting into this amortization of.
Yes. Yes, so
That can happen without
if you
that.
pass the ordinance as is, they have that sign for as long as it doesn't get destroyed. They could repair it, they could fix it up if something happened and it wasn't damaged beyond 50%. They could repair it if somebody hit it or something like that. But if it's taken out beyond more than 50%, they got to take it out. So unless they would come back and get a variance.
Okay.
I think it would be important for someone to communicate with a nice young lady that came in and said her piece that there's no imminent danger to that sign, because I think she thinks that there is.
I'll send her a message.
Hmm?
I'll contact her.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, Don, I think that was our only committee, wasn't it? I believe so. Don, were you able to reach Susan?
Yeah, there must have been some miscommunication. They thought that they were actually going to be here next week.
Next week?
Yes, something they either saw on our website or something, but I.
Oh, it's the second meeting.
That's.
All right, well, we'll schedule for the second meeting this month. Okay. I know it wasn't, the miscommunication, it wasn't intentional on their part. It happened, okay. Well, that shortens our meeting tonight, guys. Department heads, want you report in anything that's occurred?
Just one item. Just wanted to report to council that the Pepper Pike Fire Department received the 2023 Mission Lifeline Award from the American Heart Association. So if you recall, Mission Lifeline is American Heart Association's national initiative to advance a system of care for heart attacks, stroke, and out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. For this, for the application, there were 17 cases that we examined. In order to apply, 8 time-based measures were then applied to each case. And then the compliance was evaluated on compliance to those American Heart Association measures. Only 520 gold awards were issued nationally, so Pepper Pike is one of those. Gold award can only be issued if an award of silver or bronze was previously given. So this is our, I think, 5th or 6th gold award. So we've achieved that on multiple times.
Well, congratulations. It's spectacular that there are only some hundreds of departments throughout the entire United States that achieve this level of excellence. And so.
Does that reflect, so in the last year, there were 18 incidents in which there was a heart attack and stroke, and that's the data they used to see how you did?
Yes, unfortunately, you can't get the award if you don't have cases, so.
So if everyone gets real healthy, then I can.
Our stats are going to the toilet if everyone's real healthy.
A word you don't want.
For me and the department kind of goes with the territory. But it's a collaborative, so our collaboration with both the Cleveland Clinic and University Hospitals is tremendous. I mean, you're sitting right now 4 minutes from either system, and the ability to remove a clot from your brain, put a balloon in to open up blood flow to your heart in minutes. So you're very fortunate where you live.
We should post this on the website.
Yeah.
Just a little note
People
of,
might not know if anybody has been both unfortunate and fortunate enough at the same time to have that interaction. It's just unbelievable, the response time, the professionalism. It's amazing.
Thank you.
No, we're right in that saddle between 2 outstanding medical institutions, and we're really, the geography where we are is really very fortunate.
And it does, insurance wise, it gives the residents the opportunity to use their, whatever insurance directs them. And both systems, we have seen outstanding care, so.
Yeah.
Very fortunate.
And absolutely, we will get that published out on an email and on the website to everyone. Chief, why don't you provide me some write-up with, like what you just said?
All right.
Okay? Anyone else? All right. We had since we were last together, a very successful Taste of Pepper Pike. I hope that I recognize a lot of the people in this room who were able to get there, and I hope you had a good time. Our centennial celebration continues tomorrow night with a new thing for us, a party in the park, which we've been advertising. It's different than our typical music in the park, and it's a terrific band. I know they focus a lot on Motown sounds, as well as some more modern tunes. And it should be really fun. Wear your dancing shoes, and we'll have snacks and colorful party lights for everyone. So I hope everyone will be there. And it should be a good time. Starts at 7:30 to 9:30 tomorrow night. We had a tremendous turnout last Saturday night for our movie in the park. So people, your council should know, your residents are thoroughly enjoying their provided community events here in Pepper Pike. And I get a lot of thanks from members of the community frequently about that. So I hope you're keeping up with our Friday Fun Facts, which we've gone to publishing those with our emails, as well as simply putting them on the website and things. And I think I wish we had. There was some hesitancy where we're going to be flooding people with too many emails because of the other emails they receive. But I've been stopped in Heinen's several times since we started pushing them out by email. People appreciative to be now more aware of these, and people are really having. I think they're enjoying reading these little historic snippets of life in Pepper Pike over the last 100 years. I will see hopefully all of you tomorrow night at the party in the park. Council, anything?
Will there be snow cones? That's a hot topic in my house.
There will be snow
Okay,
cones.
great, perfect.
What colors?
Watermelon.
Only one.
Well, that's how I refer to them, as red or blue. Apparently, they're actually colors associated or flavors associated with the colors.
I'm not sure about that, but
There will be, and we're bringing a few more snacks aboard to supplement those. Yes.
I think that it's would be important for this council to, in some way, recognize and I don't know if the right word would be condemn, but to say something about the fact that our former president had an assassination attempt last Saturday. It was unsuccessful, and I think we can all be glad that that was unsuccessful and sorry that it happened in the first place. But I don't think it would be proper for us to not at least mention it.
I think more than mention it, I would propose, if someone wants to make a motion that the city of Pepper Pike resoundingly condemns political violence in any way, shape, or form, and that our differences of opinion as to the manner of governance is to be determined by the ballot box and not through the horror of political violence. So if someone wants to make that motion?
That was very well said. I'll move that.
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Zatrak?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Godit?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
And thank you, Mr. Gentili, for getting that up on the table. Dr. Wong?
Just a couple questions. First, the Gates Mills Boulevard Trail, I noticed that they have these nice orange stakes in the ground, which is very exciting. Is that in the middle of the proposed trail, or is it on one side or the other, or in the middle? Okay, that's what I thought. And then I noticed on the very right side, when you're going up Gates Mills towards the circle, it kind of looks like a little bit sloped. Is there going to be like regrading or like a barrier or something to make sure people don't fall off the trail into the
It'll be
abyss of the,
the
or
the abyss.
road? Okay.
It'll be
All right, good. And so I'm looking forward to
That's part of the
MTSA.
balance exercise.
I don't want to balance on them. And then the second one, I know you sent an email out to all the residents about the property tax changes, but maybe we could just make sure everybody knows that that's happening so they're not surprised by the property taxes, because I've gotten a lot of communications that many people are surprised by that. That is the Cuyahoga County sexennial property tax adjustment, but
Well,
that-
absolutely, we can comment. And I hope that the people who have reached out to you were made aware of it more so by the email, and they're on our email list. As our communication said, this is part of a state mandated tax valuation process that occurs, is it every 3 years?
6.
6 years, pardon me. And it's been underway, and the county was releasing it. The estimator it's an estimator, but it's pretty accurate, I believe, from what I understand, as to what it is. The valuations I've seen really swing. I was heartened when Pepper Pike's valuation went up only 23% on average. Part of that is because we've had a lot of construction over not the past that many years, so we've had a lot of turnover, so a lot of houses were at the level where they were near the levels they were supposed to be. Other homes, have received upwards to 50%, as I mentioned in my email. And I think they should use the estimator, because even if someone gets a 50% increase, let's say, which sounds extremely dramatic, when you push it through the estimator, that may only result in maybe a $1,500 plus or minus increase of actual cost. So the percentages can be startling, as opposed to no one wants to pay $1,600 more of taxes, but it's not a catastrophic number that most people, at least in Pepper Pike, are being presented with. There's some communities where $1,600 is almost insurmountable by their residents. We're fortunate to be in a community that even with the increases, it's usually not going to change the arc of anyone's life. Tony?
I want to say something that's in the nature of a good news, bad news thing,
Sure.
except it's a bad news, worse news thing. Somebody who sits at this table had an 82% increase in the value of their home. Now, that was the bad news. The worst news is putting it through the calculator. It was only 37% increase in taxes.
So the one thing I would say
Oh
to
my
Tony's point, and if you get that big of a valuation, I don't know, you might want to check on that one. But I also personally putting it through the calculator, didn't have the same experience. I think people don't realize that the valuation, which is, there's a good side to it too. It means our property values are increasing, right? That just the related tax piece is the part that we don't like. Obviously, people want their houses to be worth the most, especially one day when they go to sell them. They just don't want to pay the taxes. I would encourage people to really look at the calculator, and 82% is already getting to that point where you are going to have an increase that's substantial. But because of House Bill 920, which is a long-standing part of Ohio law, basically a large portion, the vast majority of these taxes are kept down, and the millage gets reduced. So that's why, in theory, you shouldn't see a huge increase. Now, if your property value goes up almost double, I
Yeah,
don't know about
82
that. But if it goes up to 23%,
Right.
you should see a fairly reasonable increase, much less than that 23%.
Yeah, that's a start. I would agree with Melanie. I think you ought to. I don't know if there's someone
There is.
in the community had a very large increase that they didn't understand. And a house next door to them had, which was 1,000-foot larger house. You don't know the condition and things like that, but it had a lower valuation and a lower increase. So they can miss, and that's why they have an appeal process. So
Well, I've been down this road before and immediately called my appraiser.
well, that's probably why somebody may have had a big increase because they were so successful in tamping it down previously.
There you go.
Do we
Yes.
know what percent of our budget is property taxes, by the way? Because for
Oh, the cities?
Yeah, the cities, because if things are going up and then maybe we might have a little bit of some wiggle room at the end of the year. I know I mentioned this before, but maybe we could consider some sort of refund back to the residents or something if we're not going to use it. Just because a lot of things are going in, people are putting in the sewers, there's a lot of expenses, and there's inflation going on, and their property taxes are going up. If we indeed have a huge surplus, maybe we could consider towards the end of the year or something like that.
Well, first of all, none of that money comes in until next year.
Okay. Right. So,
Comes
but
in-
so for
And
next
the other
year.
thing to always remember is the city only receives, and this is 12-year-old data in my head. I don't know if the percentages have changed really though. We only receive about, I think it's 9% or something
Oh.
of the property taxes.
Okay.
We do not get the lot, almost hardly any.
Two-thirds goes to the schools roughly.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah,
there's a
about
library and
60%.
the
Right,
metro
right.
parks and
Okay.
And most of the
I
money
see.
that goes to the schools, there's a whole calculation of 2 different types of millage. Most of it is not impacted by the valuation increase at this point. So it's just it's a narrow part called inside millage. We don't need to go into it, but that's why the impacts are less.
Mhm. Okay.
But I don't know. I'd have to look at each piece
Right.
of it to
Okay.
understand it better.
All right, and any other council comments?
I wanted to comment that I saw a comment on social media following the movie in the park on Sunday morning that a resident mentioned that there was a lot of trash left around in the park after the event. I just want to make sure that if we are hosting events that they're being cleaned up properly that evening. I don't know if it was, I'm assuming it's from the park, the movie. I wasn't there, but that we have enough receptacles and that it is being taken care of. I can forward the message.
I've seen the message.
Okay, you've seen it. I want to make sure that we're addressing it and that with us having an event tomorrow, that it'll be taken care of. Because
Yeah.
I think that it's showing pride in what we have and the assets there. People use and care for things the way that they see it cared for. And I think that if you go and there's lots of stuff that's overflowing, they're not going to maybe put their trash in the bins either, or pick up their dog waste or things like that. So just wanted to mention
Well, I
it.
hope so. I hope people are
I hope so,
responsible
too.
for cleaning up their trash.
But so
When we have a very large event, when we have a huge turnout for a movie like we did Saturday night, it's challenging.
Mhm.
Because we have 2 fellows working from the service department, basically, who are setting up the movie, breaking it down, serving the food throughout. And it's already, by the time they're done just breaking it down, it's midnight. And if there's a big crowd, there's going to be trash in the morning. I don't think we can expect these 2 fellows to be here all night long picking up the litter that frankly people ought to be, I agree with you, more responsible to have picked up on their own. So we'll always, a good comment that we can announce at the movies, which may help that is, please don't litter, pick up your trash.
that would be nice, or
I
maybe
think that would-
additional receptacles.
And that may solve it a good extent right there.
Yeah, or just a couple extra receptacles that they can go into. And I do want to say, I know that the service department works really hard. Like Jackie's kids, my daughter enjoys the snow cones thoroughly and all the work that they put into it. So I don't know if we need a third person there, or, something to help take care of it, but I don't want it to affect the park.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
All right, any audience comments? Hearing none.
Oh,
Oh, man,
Manny Knapp, 2632 South Center Road. Just a couple quick comments. Congratulations to the fire department and all that work. Being somebody who had suffered a heart attack, stuff like that. So it means, a lot to the community and stuff like that. So really, congratulations to you. There should be other notices that go out from the city. And even a notice on the Lander Brook sign, which is my next comment in regards to in hearing the public hearing. This was the first, and I've attended all the meetings and so forth down here, cars, paid attention. This was the first that I really heard about anybody talking about going backwards, in regards to, that was like a total surprise, to me as a resident, on there. There had been no conversation, about existing signs that are there. There was a lot of conversation about your sign in the past, but no one talked about anything that was going to change. There was no conversation about the library, that has a sign as well, on there that's not compliant to the new code. So there was nothing really ever, talked about, and maybe, again, maybe the council should have had, some more forethought to that, but I never heard anything. And that was a total surprise when I was hearing the public, session. And I guess it came out of the planning and zoning, meeting, this other, conversation. But to that, I guess the comment that I would make is that there was nothing said back to these people during that public session from council. There's nothing said during that, public hearing that, we had not thought about, retroactive, to anybody's, signage, on here. And now these people have left, and it's up to other people to let these people know. It should have been, something, in my mind, said, to them that, hey, look, we really, weren't looking at, going backwards. And yeah, you did invest money and going forward, hey, you don't have to worry about that tomorrow. You're going to change, the setbacks and so forth out here, on there. So I guess during public sessions that I think the council could really let these people know, and these people should have been told right then before they left. But, that really wasn't any of the intent of that conversation. So thank you.
Bart?
Yeah, Gerard Savage, 29600 Shaker Boulevard. I just have some questions regarding the commission. I received and got copies of all the applications and I reviewed them all. And I'm confused about the process. I think it's unclear for the residents what the process is. I know at a meeting that talked about a scorecard rating. Is that available for the residents? How are you rating them? I know on June 3rd, my wife was communicating with Mr. Gentile. Mr. Gentile asked about her degrees. I didn't think in June the commission was, or the committee was already working on the applications in June 3rd. It's kind of strange that she would get a question her application at the time, as far as I thought. I agree with Mr. Newell. I think that if someone's going to get interviewed, everyone should get interviewed. I don't think it's fair for some candidates to get interviewed and other candidates not to get interviewed. I just don't think that's fair. I think you could probably learn a lot from the other candidates by interviewing them. You may get some more information other than from their applications. I don't think that would be a big deal. I think that would be an option. You could go out and ask them if they would be like to be interviewed, but I think that an interview is fair for all the candidates, and I think you really should consider that. there was an issue with reviewing the sidewalks, and it was held off because a council member did not get a chance to review the plans or the bid. So I'm asking if you could hold off selecting people until you interview and give the applicants an opportunity to be interviewed. I am also questioning that right now today, there's only 8 people watching this video. And we have all these candidates that are applying, and I know some of them, and many of them I don't know. Many of them have never even entered this room to find out what's going on. And I even wonder if they're even on the call list where they get their emails. So, and many of them are attorneys. So I would also ask you, and I know it's going to be difficult for you because you're all having a hard time with my wife and I, because we were for sidewalks. We were a very big advocate of sidewalks. 65% of the residents were for sidewalks. So I know that's probably going to be difficult for you. And I think that you also ought to consider, many of these are attorneys. I think you really should seriously consider residents that are not attorneys. Residents are passionate about our city, that comes here many months, and if they're not here, they watch it online. My wife's been involved with the city since 2000. 20-some years she's been involved with the community. She's passionate about this city. And I see many of these attorneys that I don't even know. I mean, I think that I don't even think you probably even know, because I know a lot of people in Pepper Pike. And I really think, as Mr. Newell said, that you ought to consider interviewing every single one of them to see where they stand. I know we have these people watching online. We have these people here. I think everyone, and the reporter is going to be reporting on this. I think you owe it to the residents. You owe it to the reporter who's going to be reporting on this to take your time, not rush, and interview every single resident who's applying for this position. This is a very important position. This is going to change the makeup of our city. I love our city. I love where we're at with our city. I'm always here to help. I'm the administrator of our Pepper Pike Facebook page. I could lean some things the right way if you'd like me to. But I would like you to consider what I just stated today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Michelle?
Michelle Fair, 30559 Pine Tree Road, Pepper Pike, Ohio. I would just like to make a comment. I did hear council talk about the signage being grandfathered in. And I do believe the way it is written that the structure would, unless it is damaged, hit by a car, and we lose 50% or more of it. I would ask you to rethink that, only because the bus stop has been taken out a couple times in my time here. But the other thing is it does not, in my belief, in our belief, it does not pass over into colors. As it reads now, it states black background, one color. And I would ask that if it is your belief to allow our sign to stay exactly as it is today, to be grandfathered in, that there be clarifications put to that the colors that we were granted at the time, 5 years ago, stay that way. That's all been wiped out. So, and the other thing I would also say is that we actually the sign does go down to a 0 brightness between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. So we operate that off the hours that our tenants are open. Our last tenant closes probably after midnight. But we do shut it down to 0 brightness from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m.
No. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Jean Gascoigne, 30496 West Ladderwood. I haven't been here since the the sign or whatever you want to call it, honoring the Euclid police officer was erected out here. And, you know, it saddens me, but I'm proud of Pepper Pike putting that up. And I'm just curious, we unfortunately put another one up for the Cleveland police officer who recently died.
I can answer. That sign was presented to me,
Oh,
so if somebody does manufacture those
I
signs,
see.
then
Okay,
we'll gladly put it up.
okay, all right, thanks.
Thanks for asking.
Sure, and then while you're talking, all of these car thefts, they happen to be in the war zone, the latest, you know, and it's all over our social media. These car thefts are unbelievable, at least in my Landerwood area. Like, what, six have been stolen, and they're taking garage door openers, and it just sounds scary. And people still don't lock their doors, and they leave their computers and everything else in their cars. I just, it not embarrasses me, it alarms me that people do this still. I mean, what's the point? So anyhow, I just want to make the comment about the car thefts. So many in the last couple of weeks. And then lastly, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I'm offended by your outright comment that council cannot be nonpartisan on whatever it was you're talking about because of the sidewalks and how they were against it. Unless I misinterpreted, I don't want to, you know, we're not gonna have a discussion now, but I believe I heard what you said to be accusatory, that council could not be fair because they were against the sidewalk, so.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Jean. The only, usually, I try to avoid commenting on comments. I do want to, because it was something of great public interest, the car thefts. I simply want to make sure that everyone understands that no one wants to see anyone's car broken into. We don't want to see that bad people come through our town late at night, morning hours. But without exception, the cars that were stolen were the result of residents leaving their cars unlocked with the keys or fob inside the car. And that's despite literally years and recent months of reminders not to do that. And it becomes an enticement to, criminals to come look for, cars in nice neighborhoods. And it's not simply Pepper Pike that they're visiting. No, they're coming to Beechwood, they're coming to Orange, they come to other communities. And we hesitate to put out a code red every week, reminding people of lock your cars, don't leave the fobs unlocked, exposed, but people do it anyway. And we all have to be responsible for our behaviors. And it's, no one deserves to have their car stolen, but we also no one needs to take actions that allow that to happen to themselves. And it's sad because it brings bad publicity to our city, as if the city or our wonderful police force is somehow, not acting or responsible. And I can tell you, our police force is extraordinarily active in, investigating and solving these crimes. They were very engaged with resulting in criminal convictions earlier in this year of almost a dozen, I think, thieves who are involved with this. And we will be involved again with the investigation and ultimately the conviction of people who are engaged in this most recent wave. But we would all appreciate if our police could be less busy, having to resolve, just the foolish behavior the careless behavior, let me call it that, careless behavior of anyone who just leaves an enticement for a criminal to come and invade our city. So thank you to the police for all of your hard work in investigating this.
If I could add to that, there are suspects that we already have at this point being developed as well, and a lot of them do have ties to people that were arrested last year. So this is something that's gonna continue to happen, and they do communicate. That's why we put that out in the code red, but I have received a lot of feedback from residents. People seem to care more when it happens closer to their home. So the things that happened on Brainerd last year, we got a lot less feedback about, but now that it's, other areas more central to the city, I'm getting more feedback from residents on it. And I'm looking into different ways to communicate with the residents, because not everybody likes social media. So we did send things out the day of the first one, but a lot of people, they don't want to get involved with Facebook or Instagram. We can't do a code red for everything. So I did have residents complain that they didn't hear about something from us the day of the first event, and then the second one happens a couple days later. We did a code red at that point, but we can't always do a code. It's for emergencies. It's for critical information. So I am looking at something else and waiting to get a quote on something where we could send it to phones instantly and make this maybe more, people like communication, it's good. Right? It's teamwork, it's a partnership that we have in the community, so we'll see if it's practical or not. But
Thank you,
yeah,
Chief.
a lot of good awareness.
All right. Anything else? Hearing none. We are going to entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing the appointment of public officials and the discussion with legal counsel of pending or imminent litigation. I have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Zatra?
Yes.
Ms. Welton?
Yes.
Ms. Golden? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile? Dr. Wong?
Yes.
All right, we are going to then,
And just for clarification, when you re-adjourn, there's no more business.
there will be, I was about to say that, Manny, thank you. This meeting is therefore recused to executive session. Upon reconvening, there will not be public discussion. So you shall feel free to go home. And we stand in recess.
Yeah, we should stay.
Let's just stay up here.
Those chairs are so